The much-vaunted CCIW schedule is on the horizon, but before the conference slate begins, North Central College has one more Wisconsin Intercollegiate Athletic Conference opponent to get through. We look back on the Stout game and ahead to Stevens Point, right now on the Red Zone. Welcome inside the Red Zone. I'm Justin Zipser. As always, we're joined by NCC football head coach John Thorne to begin the show. Coach, thank you for joining us, as always.
Oh, you're welcome. Glad to be here, Justin.
And it's another show where we're coming off a victory. It's two WEAC schools down, one to go. And before we get to this third school in Stevens Point, let's look back to this past Saturday where you played Stout, and it was another solid victory for you guys.
It really was a complete game. You know, the special teams played a tiny bit better, so we still got a lot of work to do there. But the offense and defense really did some great things, and the grades for our linemen, especially on both sides of the ball, were much higher than the first game. So you want to see that, you know, increase, improvement each week. But we did have a few guys injured that didn't get to play. Hopefully they're going to be back for the game coming up.
So the good thing, I guess, about playing these non-conference games against really one conference is that you get kind of a similar feel throughout your non-conference schedule. What's it been like against these WEAC schools? What have you learned, and how is it going to prepare you for a conference schedule come up in a week or so?
Wisconsin grows big people. So they got a lot of big old linemen. I mean, there are tons of big guys, and this coming week is going to be exactly the same. You know, Stout had some really good, strong, fast kids. They were well coached. They played hard. And our guys just really executed well, you know. They have as many athletes as we have, but they weren't able to execute at the same level that our guys did this week. So it was really a fun game to be there and watch the guys perform the way they did. It was beautiful.
It was a fun game to be at. And before we dig any deeper into the game, let's dive into the highlights and get you caught up.
Spencer Stanek coming off a career day last week against UW lacrosse. Peter Sorensen, his partner in crime, a career-high 8 grabs. 2-0 UW Stout at Benedetti Worley. Trevor Mourning leading the Blue Devils for 319 receiving yards. QB Hank Kuyak had trouble finding him first quarter. He finds North Central Shane Durking instead. 10th career pick ties him for 5th all-time at NCC. Cardinals quickly convert the pick into points. Stanek had over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground last week. Hasn't lost a step against Stout. Over the pylon for his 3rd of the year, 6 points for number 6. Next possession, same game plan. Quarterback keeper to the near side steps out at the 5 for a 17-yard gain. Second quarter, in the very next play, Stanek lofts the ball to Sorensen for a tutty. Sorensen 6'5", the corner Michael Olowinski 6 foot. Do the math. Sorensen not done yet. Next possession, still second quarter. 21 yards to the 30 from Stanek. Sets up another fade to the near side. Olowinski still hasn't done the math. Sorensen with 10 catches on the day. New career high, 21 zip cards. Stanek then gets his tight ends involved in the second. A.J. Thomas 2 straight receptions of 11 yards each. 4 catches and 66 yards on the day for Thomas. More tight ends, this time the flip from Stanek finds Ryan Zdarsky. Goes down as a 4-yard touchdown reception, Zdarsky's first of the year. More Zdarsky now in the third quarter. Play action opens up Ryan for his 2nd of the day, 34-0 cards. It all equals a big North Central home opening win.
All right, so Coach, we had another good offensive performance from Spencer Stanek, your quarterback. He had a really good career game in that first game against lacrosse, against Stout. A few more touchdowns, similar efficiency, 24 of 26 passing the ball. What worked for Spencer this week?
Just about everything. He's really getting the ball out quick, you know, and that's so key in college and professional football is how fast can you get the ball out of your hands. You can't have a great game at quarterback unless your linemen in front of you are really clean and protect you. Our tight ends had a fabulous contribution both weeks, but especially this week. There were some great plays that they made. And obviously, we're starting to get an awful lot of production out of the wide receivers. We're still got to work with our running backs. They're still kind of young. They just need a few more games experience. They had some good plays. But I think the offense has got a chance to continue to get better for several more weeks in a row before they really, kind of peak out.
Now, speaking of running backs and young running backs, we saw Zach Paddock get some action. He had 80 yards to lead the team rushing in the game against Stout. Why did Zach get so much playing time, and how happy were you to see that kind of production out of your freshman?
Well, Matt Randolph was injured, and he could have played, but we just wanted to, play it safe and let him really get healed up for the rest of the season. And so it just opened up an opportunity for him to get some carries, and he made the most of it. He ran really hard and broke some tackles and looked very good. So did O'Shane Brown. So those two guys didn't get very many carries in week one, but they took advantage of the ones they got this week.
And looking to the receivers, Peter Sorensen, as he has first couple of weeks of the season, just has been tearing it up. He tied a career high with 8 catches against La Crosse. He broke that record with 10 catches in the game against Stout. Have you seen this much production out of a wide receiver to beginning year in your 12 years at North Central?
Yes, we have a time or two. We had a great receiver, Tyke Spencer, who had unbelievable numbers in the non-conference schedule especially. And Eric Studeman had some really great games too. But it's very, very good start. And the whole core with Peter and Chad O'Kane and Ryan Rizak, they really work well together. They complement each other. They each have different routes that they're really good at. And so I think it's going to allow us to be much better at the receiving core this year than we were last year. So hopefully that's going to keep improving.
They look very impressive so far. Don't go anywhere. We continue to chat with Coach Thorne after the break.
Yes, ready.
Oh, come on, Randy. Animal shelter, here I come. And no, I'm not crazy or emotionally damaged. That's a stereotype. I just belong to a total loser. I'm a good dog. So if you want a pet, adopt. And if you see Randy, tell him he dropped his wallet.
Welcome back inside the Red Zone. We still have head coach John Thorne with us. And Coach, during the break we were talking about the defense and how much better they looked this week. Of course, they looked good against La Crosse. They gave up the first possession touchdown in the first game against La Crosse. But here in your second game, first possession against Stout's offense, you guys get an interception. You really don't look back from there on out.
They had a great first half, and they continued to play well in second half, except the starters didn't get to play very much for the second half on offense or defense. But the defensive guys are really getting this new scheme, the new defense that we're running. It's making more and more sense every single week. And the more playing time, actual game experience they get, it's just going to keep getting better and better and better. Unfortunately, we keep getting too many injuries, and they're all at the same spot. They're all at defensive line. So we had to move one of our offensive linemen, to play D-line, and hopefully that experiment works extremely well and can give us some depth where we can get back into our rotations. Our D-ends and our D-tackles are having to take too many reps as the starters. So that's an area that has to get better in order for our starters to still be healthy by the time we get to the end of the season. So that's our biggest concern. I think we look a lot better against the pass than we have for all the years that I've been here in terms of controlling teams that like to throw the ball a lot, and we're going to see quite a few passes again this weekend. So hopefully it'll start turning into a few more turnovers, but that's going to happen. You know, right now we're one step away from turnovers because they're still, you know, really trying to learn the speed of the game with the new schemes. So very excited about the defensive side.
And you guys have yet to force a fumble, and obviously you're the only team in the CCIW to not force a fumble, but you have a couple picks. The defense still looks good. It's a bend but don't break type deal, and they are learning a new scheme. The Cardinals' defense made its impact felt to begin the game against Stout, and it didn't let up, and we examine the streamlined D in this week's Cardinal Corner.
Much has been made of the North Central offense and its faster pace this season, but the defense has a new look too. It's just a little bit tougher to see. Former Illinois Wesleyan player and coach Mike Murray is now wearing Cardinal red as defensive coordinator. His biggest addition is subtraction, which means a stripped-down playbook.
And that's what makes defense fun, when you can kind of take all the harnesses off and let them just go out and play fast and physical.
Less audibles and pre-snap reads and more focus on physicality is the end result for players. The new system was introduced in spring ball and has been picked up quickly.
We've been pretty vanilla, and we're enjoying that, because if you can stay vanilla and win football games, it's a good sign.
As we get into weeks 5 and 6, where we have you know, almost all of our defense in and using it on a weekly basis, then it will always be, you know, refining and cleaning up all the little mistakes so we can continue to polish all the way through to the end.
Cornerbacks Jordan Dean and Connor Douglas have solidified the defense, a position that Murray says is oftentimes the most difficult on the field.
You know, they were cover guys a lot last year. Yeah, it's kind of a matchup zone concepts, but they have to be physical and reroute receivers and still be able to cover.
There has been a learning curve. The Cards currently rank 6th in the CCIW in total defense, where they ranked 12th nationally last year. And NCC has only forced 2 turnovers, both interceptions by Shane Durking. North Central has one more game to fine-tune before the conference schedule begins.
Kick, depth.
Coach, you held Stout to 2 of 13 on third down, so the depth on the defense might be a problem where you have guys plugging in for different roles. But the good thing is that you got Stout off the field more often than you didn't.
Yeah, that third down conversion rate is huge. That's a gigantic part of every football program. If you're not very good on third down, you're not going to win. And 2 of 13 is not very good. And it's not that they were not a good team, it's that our defensive guys really felt the urgency of third down. You have to make those third down plays. And so it was really great, you know, and I think the turnovers are going to start happening where, you know, teams won't even get to third down. If you tackle well and you understand the scheme, you can play good defense. And on offense, if you block well and you understand your assignments, we're going to be good. So both sides of the ball are starting to grade out higher and higher and higher on, this is my job, I did my job right. Then we'll start add the old Chicago Bear flavor to it, where we can start, you know, stealing the ball and doing all these other kind of things. So we still have a lot of things to work on. So it's going to be a fun experience going through and seeing, can all these things start getting better and better and better as each week goes along.
And you have a chance to prove how much better you're getting as the season goes along. Quickly, Stevens Point 2-0. Last season they struggled a little bit, but once again you're playing a team that struggled a little bit last season, is 2-0 coming into your game. Quickly, what can you tell us about Stevens Point this week?
They're undefeated, and they're big, and they're good, you know. They've got a little bit more speed, I think, maybe than both the teams we played so far, so that'll be a big part of it. So we're looking forward to that challenge. We're calling this, we're in round 3 of the playoffs. We're kind of practicing, because all 3 of these teams are the caliber of athletes that you face in the playoffs. And so I think our guys are going to play very, very hard.
Third straight WEAC game, and we wish you the best of luck on Saturday.
Thanks a lot. We're looking forward to it.
Of course. Keep it locked here on the Red Zone. When we return, we'll be joined by a couple of senior leaders that have helped North Central to its impressive 2-0 start.
Hi, my name's CJ. A few years ago, my father became seriously ill. I did what I could do before he passed, but it took its toll. I lost my job, my house. I'm getting back on my feet, but I don't know when there'll be food on the table. How'd I do, CJ?
We could be twins.
Well, cousins, maybe.
Play a role in ending hunger. Visit feedingamerica.org/hunger and find your local food bank.
Welcome back inside the Red Zone. On the set now, senior tight end A.J. Thomas and senior defensive lineman Josh Fick. Guys, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
A.J., we'll start with you. Another offensive performance for the record books, or at least almost. You guys finished last week with 674 total yards on offense, a NCC record. This year, a bit shy of 600, but still really good enough for a big victory over Stout. You had a couple of really nice catches, a 39-yarder on the first offensive possession, and really essentially for every catch that you've had this season, you've been essentially wide open. Why do you think that is?
Coach puts in a really good scheme every week to get different guys open at different times. We just kind of manipulate the defense to be able to get the most out of every single play. Spencer's doing a great job finding the open receiver, no matter who it is. He is on fire right now. So I don't know if we're necessarily just wide open or if he's just creating, areas for us to get into. So.
And part of the job for you, obviously, as a tight end is catching the ball, but another job is blocking for run sets. And so far, you've had 4 running backs get in on the action. How's it been blocking for these new running backs this season, and what do you expect as the season goes on?
They're doing a great job. They're working super hard. They're young guys, so we have to make sure that we're protecting them at all times. So all 6 of us on the offensive line are really working hard to get our schemes down and just being able to create those lanes for those guys and make it easier on them, hopefully, so they can keep just running hard and trusting us.
And Josh, over on to the defensive line, you guys have been able to really create a lot of pressure on opposing quarterbacks. Hank Kuwiak, the quarterback for Stout, felt a lot of pressure. You had a sack in this past game against Stout. What's it been like on the line this season? Obviously, as Coach said in the previous segment, that you've had a couple of injuries on the line. What's it been like for you?
It's a lot faster. We're able to play faster without thinking as much. It's more simplistic defense, and it's putting the right people in the right place at the right time.
And obviously, as a defensive lineman, creating pressure on the quarterback, that really speeds up his process, and that forces him into maybe some throws that he doesn't want to make. You have Connor Douglas and Jordan Dean back there, obviously Shane Durkin doing a great job in the backfield. What's it like as a defensive end when you can create pressure and knowing that if the quarterback does have to force the issue, force a throw, if you will, that a good chance is that one of those 3 guys or maybe another safety will be able to knock it down or pick it off even?
Well, that's why it's a team sport. So it's kind of on us as defensive linemen to get to the ball or get to the quarterback and pressure him so that does happen. I mean, it's all a team, so it's all one unit working together.
And you guys definitely had a really good game against Stout defensively. The Cardinals were also able to contain Stout's dangerous wideout, Trevor Mourning. And we take a look at how in this week's What's the Word?
Everybody's scouting all week to beat the other team, so you just got to make adjustments on the fly. And our coach, defensive coordinator, Murray, did a great job of that, getting us what we need to do and making the assignments. And, basically just getting us in the place that we need to be successful.
Yeah, they've been playing great both games so far. They've been awesome. They haven't been really throwing to them, and they've been making tackles when it's come out there. And our game plan was a little different. We expected a lot of 2 tight end packages, a little more running, and they came out throwing the ball and stuff. So we just adapted and played well.
I go against those guys every day in practice, so I know how tough they are. When I saw that Stout had a good receiver, I wasn't worried that he'd go off. I mean, Connor and Jordan Dean, they're great players, and I struggled with him, and I knew they'd be able to shut him down. So they did a great job. And then Trey Hardema had an amazing play on the sideline on a corner. That was pretty impressive. And then Shane Durkin had an interception. He's a great player. He's one of our leaders on the defense in our team. Our secondary has played great, and our defense has too.
You guys have been doing a great job on defense, and obviously you held Stout to a couple of touchdowns and Lacrosse to a couple of touchdowns as well. You have a pretty good test in front of you this upcoming week against Stevens Point. They're averaging 40 points per game, which is good for second in the WIAC. Josh, what have you learned? Obviously, you haven't played this team before. What have you learned studying tape about this team's offense?
It's a WIAC school. Obviously, they're going to be pretty decent. Don't look past any team and try to make decisions and make everything good, I guess.
And AJ, for the offense, you guys have been very good in the red zone. 12 of 13 in the red zone. You're facing a Stevens Point defense that in defending red zone drives is 0-4. Do your eyes kind of light up a little bit when you see that, especially being a red zone target yourself?
Yeah, definitely. If you hear numbers like that, anybody's going to be kind of foaming at the mouth for that. But they're a big physical team. Every week is different. Every team is different. We know that they're a great team. So you can't just look at stats and just kind of overlook that section of the field. Like the red zone is where we need to, we need to score every time that we get in there. So that's where we really have to focus, and especially with a team like this that's as good and as big as they are.
And Josh, they, like yourself being the team as a whole, they have kind of a running back by committee type deal, a number of running backs subbing in throughout the game. As a defensive lineman, how much harder or how much easier does that make planning for the game?
I don't think it really makes a difference who's in the game for them or for us, because we trust our running backs, and then they trust their running backs to do the same thing. So for us, we as D linemen, we focus on one key and one reaction and everything. Same with the linebackers. Everyone works as a unit to make that play happen.
And AJ, the one touchdown pass you've had against Lacrosse, so again, wide open pass over the middle of the field, and then you also had the number of catches against Stout. Your tight end mate, if you will, Ryan Sudarski, a great game, 2 touchdowns. You only had a couple catches, but really both of them counted in this game against Stout.
Yeah, Ryan is a great tight end as well. We really work well together. I love having somebody else like that along with me, and I think he feels the same way, to where we can just kind of feed off of each other. And we were both very excited for him to score twice in one game. That's crazy. But we just kind of take what we're given, and we work as hard as we possibly can every play, just to try to make the offense a better unit.
Do you think you can keep up this offensive pace? It's going to be so difficult for you to keep up this extreme pace where you run 80 plays per game. Obviously, in the first game, you ran 90 plays. It makes the practice week a little bit tougher because you're kind of resting your body more conservatively. But can you keep up this offensive pace throughout the season, you think?
I think so, absolutely. We just have to keep conditioning our practice, conditioning ourselves for a game, and then maintaining our bodies, being aware of what actually hurts, and taking time to actually go back and let those things heal. But Coach Jeff is doing a great job pushing us in practice, and Coach Spencer and everybody a part of it. We're just moving very fast right now, and I think if we worry about ourselves and keep focusing on ourselves and studying the game like we have been, I think we can keep the pace up.
Well, that is our players segment. Guys, thanks so much for joining us. You have your final WIAC game of the season this upcoming Saturday. And then finally, conference play. We thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
When we return, we'll be joined by resident North Central Athletics expert and sports information director Clark Tuscher to take a look at a week in other Cardinal sports right here on the Red Zone.
Today is Saturday. 60 minutes of physical activity a day and eating well can help get your child healthy. Get ideas. Get involved. Get going at letsmove.gov. That's letsmove.gov.
Welcome back. Sports Information Director Clark Tuscher with us now to break down the other Cardinal fall sports. Clark, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Last week we talked a little bit about the men's volleyball program, which will begin as a varsity sport in 2016, but we still have women's volleyball in action right now to talk about, and they had a pretty important match against a nationally ranked opponent this week.
Tuesday night they had a chance to host their first match in the newly renovated Gregory Arena against the 4th ranked team in the country in Elmhurst, and a 3-0 loss. It doesn't sound all that close, but all the games were competitive. That's a team that went to the Final Four last year. By a lot of accounts with people who've seen them play, they're even better this year. So, to open conference competition against a team like that is a tough draw. But they seem to be ready for it as much as they could be based on kind of what they've got back right now.
Elmhurst, very difficult at the net. They blocked a lot of shots and made it difficult for North Central, despite the team's best efforts to get balls over the net. Really made it difficult for them at the net. North Central now kind of in a lull in their season, 6-10 on the year. It's a team that finished third in the conference last year. What's the difference between this year and last year? Obviously, they lost one of their big players.
Janae Harner, a 4-year starter at outside hitter, is a significant graduation loss. And, it just seems to be a team that's taking a little longer to gel and come together as a single unit. They are breaking in a couple of freshmen in the varsity positions there, so that can be part of that. But I think just overall, it's taking them a little time to kind of hit the ground running as a unified team. Starting off your conference competition against the best team, presumably, that's a way to kind of bring to the forefront some people who are going to be ready to compete and that you can lean on as you move through your conference schedule. As they really kind of get into the meat of it now. But like you said with Elmhurst, volleyball's like a lot of sports where if you're strong up the middle, you're tending to be pretty good, and they've got a returning All-American in the middle up front. So that can make things difficult, regardless of the team you're playing against.
Yeah, Megan Reynolds, that big middle hitter, that really made things difficult for North Central. Let's move on to men's soccer, a team that started off really strong, hoping for its first conference tournament when it comes later on in the season. They've kind of also hit a lull in their schedule, 3 straight draws, and they've had a little bit of trouble getting the ball into the net.
That's the truth. A couple of those were against very good teams, particularly a nationally ranked opponent like Chicago last weekend, wind up in a scoreless draw. The one consistent through that is they've been very strong defensively, which they have throughout all 9 games that they've played thus far. And that's something that's going to serve them well as they get into conference play when goals are at a premium. I'm sure that, as they go through the next few days of practice, the focus is going to be on, execution on the offensive end when they have chances, because, there won't be too many of them getting in the bulk of the conference games.
And over to women's golf, they're coming off a invitational win. I'm going to read this off the paper because it's a long title. The Michigan Intercollegiate Athletic Association versus CCIW Challenge. They won that tournament, and they've looked very good so far this year.
That was one, and then their home tournament as well. Two tournaments where they really came together and performed well from top to bottom, which is something they've been missing the last couple of years. There always seemed to be some issues, getting that fourth low score to finish out the team total. And that, with their conference tournament coming up next weekend, that's an event where they feel like they've got a chance for the first time in a while to really contend to win that tournament. So having those kind of strong top to bottom team performances are certainly what you'll want to look for as you get ready for that kind of a competition.
And we wish them the best of luck. Clark, thanks for joining us as always.
Thank you.
The football team is back in action this Saturday, hosting the University of Wisconsin-Stevens Point Pointers at Benedetti Worley Stadium at 1 o'clock. As usual, we'll have the game live on NCTV 17 and NCTV17.com. I'm Justin Zipser. Thanks for watching.